Welcome to Real Talk with Our Stories, Your Legacy. In today's episode, we're going to do an article reading of a personal narrative that we wrote or have permission to share. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation. Today's article is about learning how to deal with your own stress by me, Stephen, called Arguing with My Stressed Out Self, Part 1. Enjoy. Arguing with My Stressed Out Self, Part 1. Why do I keep stressing and making excuses for myself? I read and I study and I research until I lose my mind. I imagine in my head a cabinet of experts that have recruited to help me make informed decisions that will get me moving forward towards success. In the end, I douse more gasoline onto the burning pit in my stomach, and that burning begins to kill me from the inside. See, the team in my head debate and make decisions, or arguments against. But at the end of it all, they are my subordinates and I am the captain. In other words, I still drive. They can give me the best advice, and if I don't act, literally get up and walk, those ideas will go nowhere. Worst of all, they may forever disappear like a wisp of smoke. I still have time, but the fire in my stomach may not burn forever. So what? What are you even saying? I'm saying that I need to stop making excuses and act, finally. To read and study and attempt to be absolutely sure that when all conditions are perfect, will my move to be successful guarantee minimal risk? Wrong. Very wrong. To feed the fire in the mind is a great practice, but the game is not won during practice. I have to accept that mistakes will be made. I may risk losing. Though, I have to believe that everything I have learned so far will help me stay afloat. With those mistakes come greater lessons. Optimism is the catch-all for the mistakes, because with them, I trust myself to keep pushing on. I know that I won't make any progress without acting. It's like trying to drive a car without first starting the ignition. So in the end, the fire in my stomach is my fuel. My optimism and my studies is my vehicle, and I just need to start the ignition to discover where I'm going. That's the end. All right. That was an old article of mine from back in 2018. I forgot I read it, and it seems like I was trying to figure out where I was going with that. I kind of caught myself on that little short article. For me, I mean, yeah. What's your thoughts?
I mean, just from the initial listen, it's just it's one of the things that I kind of harp on all the time. As from a coaching perspective, you're gonna lose probably more times than you win. Honestly, you're gonna make mistakes, and you can't really learn from those mistakes unless you make those mistakes. It's kind of a tough lesson to learn, but you have to go through it. That's part of the experience, right? It's hard to do that, though. I mean, when you're growing up, and even when you get to a mature age where you understand it, people are still very hesitant to really jump into things without like fully investing in it, in the sense of basically success. Like, they want to be successful. Wow, successful. They want to be successful, and they don't want to fail. And I think that's the hardest thing, is people are hesitant these days because they don't want to fail.
Yeah.
They just want to be successful the first time, which in an ideal situation, yeah, that's going to happen. That's what you want. But realistically, you're going to fail a number of times. And that's the biggest thing that I've always said, coaching and just giving advice to students coming through whatever grade or wherever they're at in their academic standing, whether they're in college, high school, or whatever. I've always told them, don't be afraid to fail.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of people don't like hearing that, or like you have maybe instructors or counselors or what are they called? Like teachers, I guess teachers, but more like just advisors, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of them say that they don't want you to be like negative, or they don't want you to be real with people. And I think that's part of the issue as well, is that they try to give them all positivity, and
Yeah.
you kind of have to have like that real conversation with them, relate to them. You know, like, look, I've made a ton of mistakes. I've made a shit ton of mistakes in my life. Do I regret them? Sometimes you feel that way, but you can't always just regret those mistakes, because you wouldn't be where you are today without having made those mistakes. You've learned from those things. And you kind of just got to go out there and just, you know, you got to experience. That's how you find out whether you're good at something or not. You know,
Yeah.
like sports, for instance. You know, when you're a little kid, you may want to play every sport out there, or your parents might want to put you in every sport out there, to have you play. And you kind of determine, like, okay, I'm good at this sport, but I'm not great at that sport. I suck at that sport. I don't want to do it. You know, so it's kind of it's that process of going through all of your experiences and really kind of fine tuning what you're really good at. But
Right.
you can't get there without taking that risk.
Right. And you brought up a great point to my final line in there. I said, um, to be full of optimism, to analyze or study is a good vehicle to drive in, but you just need to start the ignition and just go to kind of discover where you're going, or where you want to go, or who you want to be. Like you brought up a great point. Without like trying different things, or trying different things without fearing that you're going to fail, is when you kind of really figure out who you are. In these times, it's like the best analogy. It's like, the gold miner doesn't strike gold on his first strike, on her first strike. It's it's from their persistence, their constant digging, where they feel their shoulders are going to give out, when they feel their pickaxes getting dull, is on that last strike, is when it really happens. And it's just the idea that even if you're ready, I feel like even if you're ready at a point where you kind of have an idea what you're passionate about, or what you want to do, and we're not just talking about careers, we're talking about hobbies, or not just hobbies, or anything that you're interested in, just anything you're interested in. You know, with everything these days, with social media, with things we look at, we have that, what is that? That analysis paralysis. We overanalyze things over and over again, and we feel like things have to be perfect, because when you go for it, make that first jump, you want it to land. But I feel different, kind of like adding on to what you're saying. When you fail, or when you don't hit that high bar that you originally set for, take a step back and realize, all right, where did you come from to get to this point? And you may even realize that you're a quarter of the way where you actually wanted to go, or you're halfway where you wanted to go, but you won't know that if you just keep, taking your time and trying to shoot for the high bar immediately. Everyone fails. It's what is it? What do the kids say these days? I know we're not that old, but what is it? Shoot your shot.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know what's going to happen, but I could guarantee you won't know what's going to happen because you don't shoot your shot. And I know in social media these days, everyone always jokes about stuff like that, but then then we all become hypocrites and don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost in everything you want to do. That person that you're attracted to, or that CEO or that boss that you see every day, but you just never talk to because you feel you're inadequate. it doesn't hurt to ask a question, or it doesn't hurt to just, my favorite thing to do is that when it comes to asking for advice, or this kind of connects to the fear of like stressing myself out. We keep stressing ourselves because we keep analyzing all over and over again. Sometimes you just got to take that step, So bottom line, it feels like, not bottom line this conversation, but bottom line, it feels like we stress ourselves out a lot for no reason,
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things. Like, we innately just want everything to be perfect, and we overthink things.
Yeah.
I know there are tons of people out there that overthink every little thing, every little detail, because they want to get it right. Because here's the thing too. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's sports or a hobby or whatever it is. If you've never done it before and you're overthinking all of these things because you have this image, just like mentally, of like, this is what it should be like, this is what's going to happen, this is how it needs to be.
Yeah.
How do you know that that's how it's going to be if you've never done it before?
Right.
Like if you basketball or something, it's like, I know the objective of the game, and I know all of this, and I know how to do this.
Right.
But if you've never once played basketball and you've gone out and played for the first time, what did you think? You were going to be an amazing like superstar? You're going to make every shot that you took? You have the right form of shooting and everything? Like,
right.
No, you're not going to get. That's the thing. It's like you stress over this stuff, and then you have this high expectation of like, this is what I need to be. And then you're like, oh man, I suck. I'm not, this hobby's not meant for me. And it's like, well, what did you expect? You've never done it before in your entire life.
Yeah.
But you're expecting perfection. And perfection is people who have like, whatever that may be, whatever hobby or sports, whatever, have put in like years of work, like practice and all of that stuff. Some people are naturally gifted. They go out and they just do it. But 99% of the time, you're not going to be an amazing superstar at whatever you're trying to do, whether that be writing a paper or a poem or, sports, who knows? Like, everyone gets into this mindset that they have to be perfect. They've gone through the list 100,000 times in their head, but if you've never done it before, how do you know what is good and what isn't good, or what's perfect? There's a process there, and we miss that a lot of the times. People just want everything to be perfect, and they want to dive into a new adventure, but we have to think about all the consequences, all the pros and cons. I'm like, well, you're only basing that off of what you've heard or what people have told you. You don't know until you really get into it.
Right.
And it's hard because that's how the world is today. Like, that's, society, that's how we think.
Right. And we're so overwhelmed because, there's stressors every day. It's easier said than done. I mean, you and I probably agree, there's so many things that stress us out, there's so many things that we analyze again. There's so many things that we fear in the world that we make excuses for because it kind of comes back to our comfort level. I'm not saying we're perfect. I know you and I, known each other for years, and there's things where, sometimes stress just kind of is another way that puts us down, and it's another way that makes us don't want to step out of our comfort zone to basically do something good for ourselves. I read in a book, one of my favorite books, Waking the Giant by Tony Robbins or Anthony Robbins. But one of my favorite things that I learned from that book was, don't separate yourself from your mind, your heart, and your body. Everything is all one. And so when you're stressing about something, it's your body's way, it's your mind's way of letting you know that something's not right. Which is literally what, stressing is like something's not right and it's not going the way that we originally planned to go. So then the question we ask ourselves then is like, what are we going to do about it? what we commonly do, and I'm guilty of this too, is we make excuses. We're stressed out beyond our mind. Extra work, from our job that we didn't expect to come down on us, shows up on our plate. We expected our day to go one way, but then something else intervenes that derails the whole day and derails the whole plan that you had, and it stresses us out, and then it makes us shut down a little bit and start questioning, okay, what can I do now, or what am I supposed to do? And this is where, like, I feel like stress and excuses are kind of in a marriage with each other, because when our mind tells us this is not right, this is painful that we're experiencing, the way that we cope with it naturally is to try to find our comfort zone. And so we make an excuse saying, you know what, then I'm not going to do that. You know what, I'm just going to cancel all plans. That's so much easier than, and just kind of like mope around, because that's so much easier to deal with. But I feel like, I'm thinking back to my 2018 self. And when I wrote that really short article, it's like, nowadays, I mean, it is still okay to get stressed out, but we got to take a step back, and we just really got to ask ourselves, so what? What are we going to do about it? Because, I think by asking us that question and taking a step back can really take control of our stressors, of our stress self, and change the outcome of that day, and that's advice that I'm still telling myself. Can you imagine, like, you had a great beach day planned, because it was supposed to be sunny. And, you had all this great picnic food to bring. And, your two friends that you asked to join along are all in tow, ready to go. And then the day arrives, it's pouring rain, it's cold. The food that you had packed the night before, you accidentally forgot to put in the fridge, so it's spoiling. Both of your friends decide to kind of cancel out on you. And so you just kind of, now that stress comes where you're like, what am I supposed to do now? This is all I had planned. And then your stress kicks in, and then you start telling yourself, you know what? I'm just not going to do anything and mope around all day. But then you got to think to yourself, all right, when you ask yourself, so what? So what can I do now? Or what is it into the bigger picture of my life? You start to realize everything that just ruined your day and just stress you out were all things out of your control, right? Mm-hmm. But I feel like it seems like when you take a step back and ask yourself, okay, what is it that I'm really stressing about? And what can I do about it? I think you start to come up with a better solution. Sure, it's a rainy day. Sure, originally you were supposed to have a picnic, but now when you ask yourself that question, take a step back, you have a whole day free, and now you could probably figure out something better and more productive to do, And so, the things that I learned over time, especially from back in 2018, when I wrote this article, it's like stress will always come in many different shapes or forms, but you have to ask yourself, what can you control about that situation, and then take control of it and change the outcome, Yeah. But who knows? Yeah. But who knows? Maybe you just want a lazy day. Maybe that was your body telling you, thank God all this happened, and you just need a day to kick back and just eat junk food. There's no right or wrong answer, but I think the right answer is that to not stress, I think, is the best answer. So, it's that right there for me is big.
Yeah. And I think you hit a good point there in the fact that we do stress a lot, but a lot of it is out of our control. And I'm guilty of, like, if things that I have planned don't go as planned, and it's kind of weird for me to say because I'm also an event planner. Yeah. So, like, and when I'm at work and stuff goes wrong, like in a day, I don't stress. Like, it's literally most of it's out of our control. So we're like, all right, plan B, plan C, D, all the way to Z, whatever we need to do, let's get it done. Let's not stress about it. Just get it done. But I think, when it's my own life, like, kind of weird. It's like, oh my God, I'm 10 minutes late to something. The whole day's ruined. I can't, I just can't right now. And then it puts me in like this really foul mood. And then I'm like, just don't want to do anything. So yeah, so I'm definitely guilty of that. But if there's one thing that I can try to, portray to others is just that what you said is a lot of it is out of your control.
Yeah.
And those are the things that like a lot of people stress on, honestly. They stress over every little detail or every little thing. And I'm like, look, you don't have control over the weather or
Yeah.
a car accident that happened right outside, whatever, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. You don't have control over that stuff.
Right.
Or like if your friends cancel on you, that's not on you.
Yeah.
It's just stuff happens, life happens, whatever happens, and a lot of that's out of your control, and there's nothing you can really do about it. But
Right.
innately, you're going to stress out about it. And if there's one word of advice is just like, just back up. There's no need for you to stress. There's no need for you to get to the point where you have a migraine, a headache, your heart's racing, you're sweating, you're trying to figure it out. I've been there. Trust me, I know.
Yeah.
There's no point in that because a lot of that stuff is literally just out of your control. There's nothing you can possibly do other than be like, you know what? It's okay. And I guess I'll go do something else.
Yeah.
But I know it's crazy how stressed people can get
Yeah.
over stuff that they can't control. And
Yeah.
usually if you have someone else there to kind of talk you through it, it's definitely helpful. I know I've had to talk several people through that before, just like, I understand that this is a very stressful situation for you right now. You're on the ground, you're crying, but let's talk through this. What's plan B? Is this the end of the world?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Is this going to cause you stress? Obviously it is. You're on the ground crying. But how can we fix this? How can we make it better? How can we get through this without you freaking out anymore? Because look, in the event world too, it's like I've seen that. People like literally like crying and on the ground and stuff too. I'm like, there are 300 people in there that just you need to do something about, like just plan B.
Yeah.
Your keynote speaker didn't show up. They canceled the last minute, like 30 minutes before they're supposed to go on. Yeah, that's stressful. That's crazy. I don't envy you, but hey, let's try to get through this real quick.
Right.
But if it's like just your normal day and things are just going wrong and you're stressing and you're like freaking out and you're like having almost like a nervous breakdown, it's like, look, just slow down, take a step back, breathe, and let's talk about this, because a lot of that's out of your control. And as much as you want everything to go perfect, not everything is going to go perfect. Just know that. I can tell you that from a personal standpoint and a professional standpoint.
Yeah.
Working in events, you can plan events for a year out. Day of the event, way different. Something's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen, but something's going to come up. Nothing goes like clean. There's always one little mishap, and sometimes it's a very small mishap where like the batteries in a microphone ran out or something like that. Easy fix. Your catering for 500 people didn't show up. A little bit crazier of a thing that you need to figure out, but literally out of your control. You just got to do what you got to do.
Right. I mean, conditions will never be perfect. That's the main thing to take away from this, and how we react to it is another takeaway. So much of our lives is always linked to something. Whether it's linked to another person, linked to a job, linked to just something in the event, something in the moment. And we have to realize that at the end of the day, what we can do is just continue to control ourselves, like you said, and I'm guilty of this too. I'm not pointing any fingers at anyone. People have nervous breakdowns and stuff when it doesn't happen. We all got that way. Mm-hmm. There's times where I just get very frustrated when something out of the blue happens that I didn't expect to, and then I get angry at the situation, and that's the key, is that it's always about the situation. It's never about ourselves. And that's what we have to remember, because our mind is always thinking about perfection. It's always thinking about it has to go right, or it's never going to be a beautiful thing. And I, do you feel like that's just a negative part of our society? Is just like, we always see the winners, we always see the aftermath of everyone who did everything, but we don't praise the struggle they went through. We talk about it, people who win will always tell you it was a grind. It was never smooth. But that's the story that, people don't highlight often. People always showcase that it's always this person made it to the top. And that's because, they're perfect at everything, which is not always the case. Speaking of perfectionism, I feel like that's a word that we need to take out of our vocabulary. I forgot. Man, it's another reading that I read, and it was another book that I read. I forgot what it was, but I remember the quote from it was, as humans who strive to be great at something or be great at anything, our goal needs to stop being that we are chasing perfection. If anything, we need to chase balance, because right there is, the equivalent of what we're striving to do is finding balance in ourselves, because when you find balance in yourselves, I feel like that's when plan A doesn't work. By staying calm, staying balanced, staying in the moment, we could talk it out and look for the next plan to make it work.
Yeah. And I think too, like, what really defines perfection also, I mean, certain situations or certain things like baseball or basketball, any sports things, like, kind of easy to understand perfection there. That's what you're shooting for. But like, there's a lot of situations where, like, how do you define perfection in that sense? There's multiple perfections into certain things. Like, what are you going to do to get there? All that stuff. And I think you brought up a good point, is that we don't celebrate our failures. And that's kind of full circle with the conversation, is that, embracing failure is part of success, honestly. And you can't get to, where you're going to be without some sort of failure. Well, some people can get there without failing because they have help, or they, inherit certain things.
Fail somewhere. They still have to fail somewhere.
Yeah, they still have to fail somewhere. Failing is just part of the learning process. Like, we oftentimes celebrate the end result, the final result, final piece.
Yeah.
Right? Easiest thing or most common thing that we can think of, like, example wise, is a movie. You don't see all the bloopers or the outtakes, or how many times someone forgot their line, or a camera was too shaky, so they had to reshoot the whole thing. Like, we don't see that. We don't see, like this, 3-hour movie. We just see the end result. Like, that's the end product. And we're like, right. Oh, that's great. Everything was perfect. They don't talk about the 6 months it took to record that,
Right.
So it's one of those things, like, sports, that is a very live, like in process, or failing and succeeding all at the same time.
Right.
And I think we have to realize also is just like, not everything, obviously not everything's going to go perfect, but it doesn't matter how much practice or whatever you do, however good at certain things you are, some days you just don't have it.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, you could be the greatest writer in history, with books, whatever that may be, poetry, but you talk to them, even they're like, I had writer's block. It was like 9 months. I
Yeah.
couldn't write a dang thing. Couldn't even form a sentence.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, like, everyone goes through that kind of stuff. It's just, just, you just don't have it some days. I know
Yeah.
for myself, I did everything possible for running. So I'm a runner. I trained, I followed a very strict regimen for a marathon. I was ready. I felt I was ready. It got to the day of the race. I had ran the distance before. I was good. The day of the race came. I knew something was wrong the first mile, and I was like, "There's 26 miles in this race. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe my body just needs a little bit of time to warm up." My body never warmed up. I was tired. I was cramping by like mile 5.
Oh, wow.
I took every training thing. I thought I was ready. I felt I was ready. I felt good about it. And quite, being honest here, it was the worst race I've ever ran. I trained. I was ready for it. I was ready. I thought I was like good to go. I thought I was going to get my PR. Day came, felt something was wrong in the first mile. Didn't change after 5. Got to 10. I was cramping. I was like, I don't know. I did everything by the book, everything right, and I just didn't have it that day. It's just how it is sometimes, like I was fully prepared, and then my body was like, nah, son, we're just not gonna do this today. I'm like,
So
okay.
what'd you do? You just quit after mile 10, or when you cramped up?
No, so me being the stubborn person I am, I finished the race.
Yeah.
It was miserable. My body was just done. It was like, I hate you. Why are we doing this? Why are we keep going? And it's part of the mental grit too. Because
Yeah.
like, trust me, I wanted to quit. This was like probably one of the only races that I've ever considered just quitting.
Yeah.
But I was very determined to also just finish the race, because I was like, no,
Right.
I trained for this. I don't want to just give up.
Yeah.
I put a lot of time into it.
Well, like kind of going back to our topic of the discussion, it's like, I'm sure by mile 10, when you were cramping, you were stressed out as hell. I mean, you're probably telling yourself like, like, what the hell? Like I trained for this. Like this, it wasn't supposed to go this way.
Hmm.
But by you continue to push through, you did you not tell yourself, well, I'm here now. What am I going to do about it? Did you not tell yourself that? And that's why you still push through, even though you did not even get close to the time that you wanted, but you still finished it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just one of those things. It's all mentality at that point.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to push yourself through it. Granted, if I would have broke my leg or something, I would have said, I can't.
Yeah, you're right.
But my body was kind of shutting down, but I was still so determined to finish the race. Like, I had a friend that was running it as well. She learned about what my body was happening in my body, so she actually kind of helped me through it as well, because she kind of stayed with me at that point. She was ready to go. She could have finished way ahead of me, but she chose to stay with me, so that was definitely helpful. But yeah, like you get to a point too, you're like, all right, well, I've ran 10 miles, I've ran 13 miles, I still have 13 more to go. Like,
Right.
What else am I going to do? I'm at this point still technically 13 miles away from the finish line, where my car is too. So it's also just like, all right, I'm literally in a spot where I don't really have a choice but to like push on too, because
Yeah. But what's amazing about that story is like, tell me this, did you not like go home bath up, iced up, obviously, to care of yourself to heal up. Cause, I only ran one half marathon in my life, and that was with you. And I remember my body died for a couple weeks. Like, I can't imagine you who, run at least a half marathon, every month. But that day though, that night when you came home or when you finally rested, maybe the day after, did you not go back to the drawing board and tell yourself, okay, like, what happened? Like, what caused me to have my body react that way during that race, and how can I prevent it from next time? I mean, that's all part of that stress. And because, we stress every day, but the point is to use that stress to keep battling on, because eventually stress is a good thing, but it's what we do with that stress is what makes us better. I mean, can you kind of walk through, did you, go home that night and analyze kind of what happened to your body?
Yeah, for sure. Me being just that type of person too, like after the race, first thing I did was eat, right? I ate, drank water, did all the things I would normally do. I still kept a very, like, I wouldn't say it's a strict regimen, but I stayed to my regiment. Like, after races, I drank water, I ate like whatever I wanted, just to kind of get those carbs and hydration, electrolytes back in my body.
Yeah.
Proteins, all that stuff. But yeah, no, definitely at the end of it, like in the car, when I got home, after I iced up, all that stuff, I just, I was thinking like, okay, I don't know. I went through every little detail. Like, nope, I did everything like I would normally do before a race. And today my body just was like, I just don't feel like doing it.
Yeah. So even though you couldn't figure out what happened, it was just one of those days that just didn't go plan in life. But I mean, still though, man, it's still a great story. Like you still trucked through and finished the race.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not a lot of people can say that. I mean, you went from, if it was me, I would have at least said, you know what, let me at least complete half a marathon and go to my 13th mile and then just call it a day. But you went from 10 miles in where you started really hurting and said, I'm just going to finish the extra, 16.2 or 15. Yeah. And so,
no, it's, like I said, it's all mind games at that point.
Yeah.
And, when you're in it, you kind of are just like, all right, I just got to do it. Just got to do it.
Yeah.
You start playing games with yourself too. You try to like make it seem not as like insurmountable, like,
yeah,
it's like, damn, I got 16 miles, but really, okay, I'm at 15 now. All right, 15 miles. Now that's just 5, or whatever, 5Ks. But then if I do that, then it's really I only have to run a mile 15 times. But really, I'm like, okay, but I can get to half a mile 30 times. So you start like breaking it down to where it's like you make it easier on yourself, like mentally, like,
yeah,
that's a large number I have to run. But if I just break it down, like, okay, I can do this 1 mile at a time, and I just got to do that 15 times, and just, one foot in front of the other kind of thing.
Isn't that how like overall we deal with stress? It's like, all right, this didn't go to plan. It's horrible, but how do I make it work?
Mm-hmm.
And you just highlighted it perfectly, man. And like in an inspirational story, you told yourself, look, I still want to finish this race, even though it's not what I expected. But how can I conquer, an additional almost 16 miles ahead of me? You broke it down into like smaller goals, to get there. And that's, I think that's the overall message. I mean, you and I aren't professionals at this, but we're going through it, and that's what seems to work, because at the end of the day, it's like there's always going to be daily stress. It's just how you break it up in parts and how you conquer it, And so at the end of the day, it's always going to be kind of like going back to my article, it's always going to be something. It's always going to be something with yourself that's going to keep yourself down. So if you can keep yourself down with a lot of negativity and just, dampen your mood, isn't it possible that you can also reverse it and figure out a better way to make it work for you? And so, that's for me kind of a big takeaway from our conversations. Like, it's okay to be stressed. Just know that you got to talk to yourself. It's okay to talk to yourself, or have someone talk to you about figuring out a goal to accomplish it. You got any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, stress is normal. We can't avoid stress. Stress is going to happen, whether it be, what, my bread went moldy, I was going to have toast. Now I'm stressed, don't have breakfast. It's just one of those things like, stress is normal. But the message, I think, is to not let it consume you to the point where you're just like freaking out.
Yeah. Let it elevate you, or let it drive you towards a different solution. That, who knows, may even be a better plan than you originally thought. I think that's the biggest takeaway, man. I'm glad you mentioned that it is a normalcy. Everybody stresses. For me, I feel like I stress on average 10 times a day. On anything, any little thing.
Yeah.
I need, like literally, I'm working from home, and, I'm working out my master bedroom where the bathroom is literally a walk away. And, and Vanessa's also working in the room. But however, I decided to, hold off peeing for an extra 10 minutes because I wanted to really finish this project. And then when I really need to pee, she goes first. Now I'm stressing.
Yep.
But then it's like, all right, what are you going to do about it? Okay, I know I have 2 other bathrooms in the house. Do I really need to go, or can I wait? You see how you still figured out a solution for yourself, and instead of just like crying and decided to go crawl in the corner because, why does she think of going to the bathroom when I need it the most? It's like, it's the idea of, we stress over every little thing. But you gotta take control of yourself and ask yourself, okay, then what am I gonna do about it, or how can I make it better?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You just can't let it consume you, and you just gotta go with the flow, man. You can't stress over the stuff that's out of control, or if it's within your control, then control it.
100%. I'm so laughing at the idea that Tyler is showing up 10 minutes late to a meeting for whatever reason, and you're just drenched in sweat. It happens, man. It's funny that it happens to all of us, and so it's laughable. And that's the thing. You got to switch up your mood and just make it funny. Like the story that I just said about me not peeing until the last moment, and then stressing out when someone beat me to it. That's funny. Laugh at yourself, and then be like, all right, that's ridiculous. So what can I do about it to fix the situation?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you really break it down. It is funny though. Like, again, for breakfast even, just like, I have cereal. Mine's set on cereal. No milk. Oh, can't have cereal. I can't eat today. It's over. I can't. Yeah. It's just fine. No, it's like, no, there's oatmeal, there's toast, there's waffles. I don't know. There's fruit. There's anything else you can eat. I really wanted cereal today, and now I can't eat anything for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So it's just funny to think about, like,
right.
And I know, and hey, that's not a stab at anybody, or I know people probably feel personally attacked by me saying that, because hey, it happens. Sometimes you want cereal and then you get upset, but it's just one of those things. You just gotta roll with it and just don't let it consume you. Go find plan B, plan C, whatever it may be.
We all have this ability, Yep. We all have this curse, but we also all have the ability to just relieve the stress and then make it our advantage. So
yeah,
real talk, man.
Yeah, it's real talk. It's good talk.
Yeah, real talk. Thanks for listening to OSYL. All right.
Got it.
Yeah.